A long time ago, in a town some very, very far away, a prophecy foretold of a man that would debunk what a sandwich is. His name is Andy Valdi. Here he is. Is he going to come in? I think so.
Wow. I was expecting like some like climatic something to come from there. Everyone's probably like, oh. Well, thanks, Ryan. Thanks everybody for joining for another
jelly.
Yeah, that is slightly. It's slightly more PG-13. Yes. Thanks everybody for joining for another episode of What's a Sandwich. Today we are joined by I'm a huge fan, dating back to I think like high school days. Remember watching him on TV. But before I get started, today we're going to be talking about the infamous Cuban sandwich. Yes. So we're going to talk Cuban sandwiches. We're actually going to have a Cuban sandwich built for us tonight, which is really cool. So
he's going to hand deliver them, right?
What's that?
But he's going to hand deliver them, right?
Oh, I don't know. We'll have to ask him. But without further ado, please welcome Wayne Johnson.
Hey guys, how are you?
Hey Wayne.
How you doing?
Welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
We're super I was going to say super excited, but I'm stupid excited to have you on with us. So tonight we're talking Cuban sandwiches, and you have a recipe prepared for us. But before we get started,
sure,
maybe just give everybody a little bit about you and history of food and maybe sandwiches and all the good stuff.
You want the whole history of food in its hour period as well? Okay, I can start with
yes.
No, well, my world of food all started, I think, it started when I was young with my family. I came from a really big family, but my real sort of connection to food, and I think what people know me from back in the old days, was in 2004 when the Today Show decided to have this crazy contest. Martha Stewart, as you may or may not remember, went off to jail. And the Today Show said, who's going to be the next Martha Stewart? And if you think you have the talent to be that, then send us a 500-word essay, a 1-minute video, and explain to us why you think you could compete. And so for some bizarre reason, I was one of the 3 finalists they selected. And over a 3-day period, I had to cook for 30 minutes. I had to do a floral arrangement. I did a craft project. I answered all these crazy questions with Matt Lauer and Ann Curry and Katie Couric and Al Roker. It was a lot of fun. And then people in America voted. And I actually won the contest, which was really silly and fun and great. And what I really won for the contest was just the opportunity to go back and do another segment on NBC, which is what I did. So I went to Today Show. I did like 4 more segments over a year period. And then local Chicago, WMAQ TV, NBC5, contacted me and said, you seem to have a good time doing that. Would you like to do that for us every week here in Chicago? And I was like, duh. And so I started doing that back in 2004. And I did it for about 10 years, which is a lot of fun. And I still get people, even though it ended in 2014, basically 2015, there are still people that are nice enough to say they remember seeing me, and they're very cool about that. And I've sort of extended that a little bit because now I have a YouTube channel of my own, which is Wayne Bites. And I also post a lot of food on my Facebook channel, which a lot of people do see. And then I also occasionally get invited to places like Windy City Live. They're nice enough to bring me on for a few little segments here and there. It's a lot of fun. So that's my food history. And I love dabbling in a little bit of everything. And I always like sort of breaking the rules. So breaking the rules makes food, I think, a little bit more interesting rather than following somebody else's absolute formula for something. So that's part of what tonight's about too.
Yeah,
absolutely.
We're really excited to have you here because we're just a couple dudes that have fun and eat sandwiches, and you came here.
Nothing wrong with that. I think I qualify in that world too.
I read something about you. It's something like 500 plus TV segments. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, I did NBC. I was doing it once a week for 10 years. And so if you just do the simple math, it was like if you take 2 weeks off for a vacation, then that's 50 segments a year for 10 years. So I did over 500 segments while I was at NBC, and I still, it's funny, I have a lot of them still recorded somewhere, but I go back at it and I'm sort of embarrassed at how bad I was the first couple of years. I think I finally got a rhythm going near the end, but yeah, it wasn't pretty, some of the earlier ones. It wasn't pretty at all.
That's kind of how we are with this show. Like, we look back at the first episode and it's like, okay, we didn't know what we're doing. I think we maybe a little bit know what we're doing now. We'll see as it progresses.
I think people love just sort of like growing with you when you do things like this as well, because they're part of the process and their comments sort of make things a little easier for you and make you change things in a positive direction. I think that's awesome as well. So it's all good. It's all good.
Absolutely. Cecily says we're more than just dudes that eat sandwiches. Thanks, Cess.
Well done, Cess. That's funny.
All right. So I guess before we get started, it's just a classic question that we have for everyone that comes on here. What is a sandwich to you? What defines a sandwich to you?
You know, we've had this debate when I've been posting a few things actually on the page in the group. It's not an easy thing to answer because you have to think about different cultures. You know, to me, a sandwich is a handheld thing, obviously, and a very basic level sandwich is something that's between two pieces of bread. But bread can be a lot of different things to a lot of different people. I mean, you think about cultures where they use pita bread, or you think about, you know, in Latin culture where you're using tortillas. You know, if you take a tortilla and put something in it and fold it in half, that's literally something between two pieces of bread. So I think it's you kind of have to allow for variances on the definition. But to me, for the most part, a handheld is a sandwich. Just about anything that's a handheld is a sandwich, except for, I don't think a corn dog's a sandwich. I'm not sure what a corn dog is, but I don't think it qualifies as a sandwich.
Corn dog is stick food.
Yeah, that's true. There you go. There you go. So, you know, because I
alligator on a stick. You can get shrimp on a stick. You can get
things on a stick.
Koala on a stick. I don't know.
I think I've had rattlesnake on a stick once before. It was interesting, but not something I wanted to repeat after that one time. So yeah.
Oh,
so
that's crazy.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even want to like verbally repeat that. That just sounds weird.
What, rattlesnake on a stick?
Yeah. I mean, my weird level is pretty high, but rattlesnake on a stick.
Yeah.
Well, like, you know, does it make noise?
It was no, I think they leave that part off. But I think there's actually but I think that, no, I take that back. I think the little rattler was on the thing there to sort of like, they rattled it to make you want to go actually buy the stick and taste it.
Oh, jeez.
You didn't actually eat the rattly part of it. So, you know, it was kind of weird. But
here, eat some steak and then you have a baby toy.
Yeah. But now, so how do you guys feel though about in terms of what is or isn't? Where do you draw a line? What do you call not being a sandwich then in the world? Because I posted tacos once on the group, and there was a few people like, well, I'm not sure that's a sandwich or not.
Yeah, so kind of going back to your description of what makes a sandwich a sandwich. I maybe 3-4 years ago I would have disagreed with you on that, but as time has gone on, I completely agree. I think it's a cultural thing. I think it just has to do with what you consider your bread.
Right.
So I'm in complete agreement with you that it's a handheld. Tacos is one of those things that I've had like this internal struggle with for a while, but I can see it though. I can see it because, you know, we've had the classic is a hot dog a sandwich debate debacle several times. And to me, I consider it a sandwich as much as it's an unpopular opinion amongst some other sandwichers in the world.
Sure. But then I guess that raised the other question for me though, is what about like a gyro? If you have a gyro, that's like folded inside of pita, much like a taco is a gyro a sandwich or not a sandwich? And that sort of becomes that crazy argument that's hard to sort of define absolutely. Yes. Yeah. Well, so if a gyro is a sandwich, then a taco is a sandwich. It's just a thinner version of the same thing. So I think it becomes, you know, a tough argument, but whatever I think is the correct one. So there you go.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you. I consider the Euro sandwich, and that kind of mentality has kind of shifted me into hot dog has to be like it's a split roll. Like if I'm calling a gyro a sandwich, I mean it's got to be. So, but yeah, Ryan, sorry, we might have cut you off, but did you agree?
Yeah, I'm totally down for the gyro being a sandwich. That's like one of my favorites. I actually eat them weekly at work, and it's one of my favorites too.
Yeah,
I think for me, like the sandwich is determined. Like for me, it just has to be buildable, and then it's a sandwich.
I get it.
That's still
yeah, I get.
Debatable.
I agree with you, Debbie. It's a tough one. It is tough. I'm glad the posters are big enough. I can actually read people's names. Hi, Debbie.
Good. So then obviously you would consider a hot dog a sandwich given the taco theory.
Absolutely. I mean, because think about things like lobster roll.
I just go with whatever.
Think about lobster roll or a shrimp roll. Yeah, that's true too. Just upset everybody by picking the opposite thing. No, but like a lobster roll and a shrimp roll when you go like to New England. I mean, those are different types of. It's basically bread that's just cut a specific way for what you're putting inside of it, and it's got to be a sandwich in my mind. Yeah,
the lobster roll, like the lobster roll itself too, is something I've thought about. Like, oh, it's not fully. See, the true roll itself is not split all the way down unless you broke it. It's just the top, and then the sides are kind of like pinched shut.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, to me, that's even closer to being like a pocket, where people start getting into that whole bit too, which I think that's where the corn dog falls in. But but yeah, it's an interesting debacle.
At the end of the day, whatever works for you, though, is bottom line. For me, if you can hold it, if I can go to a baseball game and eat it in my hand, it's probably a sandwich.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm gonna go with
that. Okay, so someone's got a question. This is actually my dad. Hey, Dad.
Okay. Happy belated birthday.
Thanks, Wayne.
Go ahead.
He wants to know what your favorite sandwich is. What's your favorite sandwich?
Honestly, my favorite sandwich is a burger. I absolutely will eat a burger. I remember when I was young, I told my mom, could I just have a burger every day for the rest of my life? And she's like, no. But it just underscores the fact that I really like a good burger, just a really, really great burger. And number two would be a smoked brisket sandwich. Either a pulled pork version of it, or not pulled pork, but a pulled beef version of it, or actually sliced brisket. Either one. I just love, coming from Texas, good barbecue, put a little coleslaw on top of that. That's a great sandwich as well. But burgers are fun because you can go and explore burgers. If you like a burger, you can explore burgers from a variety of different restaurants. What's your favorite restaurant that has the best burger? I love Au Cheval here in Chicago. I don't know if you've been there before, but they've got a great burger. It's really, really good burger. So
haven't been there yet, but I'm dying to go.
It's a great burger. It really is a good burger. So, and I love exploring. I love exploring the different ones around the city of Chicago. I think Mod Street, I think it's called, over on Ashland, is also a really good burger as well. So Mod Street, I think is the name of it. So yeah, I love my burgers. Absolutely. And who said it? Grilled cheese? Grilled cheese works as well. There you go.
I'm with Aisha. I love a burger, but for some reason I'm a cheese nut and I love grilled cheese. It's and beyond just the basic one, we do like a grilled cheese with goat cheese, and oh man, Brittany's my wife. She did what was it? Honey roasted pears with onion man, the pears alone. The pears alone were just like to die for. So I just
now in the dead of winter, I love making a really, really rich tomato soup. And then you're right, any variation on a grilled cheese is awesome. And I love the idea of the pears. That's pears and sort of sauteed onions. That sounds like really great. That sounds like a great sandwich. Really good.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say the Italian beef is mine.
That's Italian beef? Yeah. Where from? Homemade or beef?
That's my favorite.
I'm going to go on record right now, living in Chicago for as long as I have, I don't like Italian beef. I just feel like they boil I feel like they've boiled the life out of the meat, and it just loses unless you put the jardinières on it. I'm just like, no. Not one of my favorites. And I get how people love it. I mean, it's a Chicago staple. But I feel like they literally boil it for 14 days, and all you're getting is sort of this texture. And if it's not for the juice and the jardinières, you're sort of like, okay. But I want, if you like it, that's a cool thing. Oops.
I have yet to have like one that's like wowed me, but
yeah.
I'm not big Italian beefer.
Yeah, it's not my favorite. Not my favorite. Because it's not, and it's also, they're all so similar. There's not a big, other than what they put in their jardiniere, there's not a big difference between one and the other. And I do feel like it just loses a little of the flavor. There's so much more flavor you can get in other kinds of sandwiches and things. Like your gyro, the gyro you say you have every day, that sounds like that's an awesome thing. You probably love that.
No, every week, but yeah.
Where's your go-to hot dog place in the city then?
Oh,
favorite gyros I've ever had since this Little John's went under. I mean, not under, they sold out, but anyways, it's one of my favorites.
Which one?
The one from the Hungry Mule, it's in Lake Zurich. It has to be one of my favorite sandwiches of all time.
Gotcha. Mine is Byron's. You know Byron's hot dogs? I live in Uptown, and there's a Byron's on Lawrence Avenue, just west of Ashland. And I think they have, 11 different toppers they put on it. Very Chicago hot dog. It's got a million things on it. Love it. It's one of my favorite hot dogs in the city. I like their burgers too. Their burgers are a little crazy because it's like they just like, and then you have to get it home and sort of rebuild it to eat it appropriately. But their hot dogs are awesome. I love their hot dogs. They're very good. And I like the hot dogs over the Polish, over the Italian. So I just like generic hot dog. My favorite.
I'm an Italian sausage person. I can't get into them.
Yeah, I like them okay, but they're not. If I want a hot dog, I just want to be in a beef. Basic hot dog slathered with mustard and all the other goodies. So yeah, agreed, totally.
So there's a comment I've seen it come through several times. People love your placement, Wayne. You're like the way that you have everything placed out in front of you and set up here. Everyone's loving the setup. Just a comment.
Well, you know why? I mean, that comes from 500 seconds at NBC. I mean, you've got to sort of lay it out, your process, how you're going to do it. And the funny thing is that I've got a little island here in my kitchen, but this tablecloth you're looking at is elevated by about 5 bricks. I have 5 small bricks that are underneath, raising it a little bit higher so that I can get everything in the right position.
It's a little bit of movie magic right there. I love it.
Exactly. Yeah. The backside here is not pretty at all. It doesn't look good at all. And you couldn't see it either. I've got all these little notes plastered to the little lectern that I created for the laptop computer too, because I knew I would screw up on some of the stuff I would talk about later.
Oh, no worries at all. Yes, it's a beautiful setup. So I guess now that we're shifted our focus to what's in front of you. So as some people know that have joined tonight, some people may not know, Wayne's going to be talking about Cuban sandwiches tonight, and say he's actually going to be building one for us. So I guess first off, and actually I need to get back to my notes here. I kind of went off track. Okay, so we talked about that. So what is a Cuban sandwich? For everybody that's on here, I would hope that many of you know what a Cuban sandwich is. I think I know what a Cuban sandwich is, but for people that are watching, what makes a true Cuban sandwich?
A true Cuban sandwich, and now we're going to talk. I know we're going to talk a little bit about the Cubana, which is a Mexican different. It's a torta, completely different sandwich, unrelated to the Cuban, 100%. It's just the name or so similar. But a Cuban sandwich, the very basic Cuban sandwich is Cuban bread that has mustard on it. It has ham. It has roasted Cuban roasted pork, which is a pork that's been marinated and then basically roasted for hours and hours and hours. Then it's going to have pickles on top of that, Swiss cheese, and then it's going to be pressed either inside of a panini press or some sort of press that really flattens it down so it's nice and flat. Now, there's a lot of different stories as to how the Cuban began. And I'm not sure I know the definitive answer because I got a lot of this information off the internet, and everything on the internet is true, as we know. But the bottom line is, well before Cuba was off limits to the United States, there were a lot of migrant workers that came up to Florida to work orange groves and all those various things. And they would often have sandwiches that could be portable. That could be just basically you'd pack it away for the beginning of the morning, midway during the day for lunch. You just pull it out and sort of munch on it. So it needed to be something simple that was compact, But my understanding is the origin was in Key West, and the original sandwich in Key West was called a mixto, M-I-X-T-O, and that had more than just the basics that I described a second ago. It also had lettuce and tomato, and that was a little bit more of a complicated sandwich. But as this particular sandwich and this concept of this sandwich shifted to Tampa and to Miami, it was much more simplified. So it's just the ingredients I talked about before: bread, mustard, ham, roasted pork, pickle, Swiss cheese, and bread pressed down. Now, there is a variation on that as well, because if you're in Tampa, you also have salami on yours, as opposed to if you're in Miami, you don't. But the thing about the Cuban sandwich is it really stays very, very consistent. That's the basic ingredient you're going to see. If you see the Cuban sandwich anywhere in Miami, you see it on the menu here in Chicago, those are going to be the basic ingredients. It's basically pork. It's basically pork, cheese, and pickles with mustard on it. So there's variations, though, because the important thing to talk about is the Cuban bread. Cuban bread is very specific to a Cubano sandwich, and I can talk about that now unless you have a question before I jump into talking about the bread.
Oh man, I was gonna. I just have a comment. I guess it's like the typical American story where like something came here and then we Americified it or whatever you want to call it, but you know, like sure. It stripped down and became a little bit more of its own thing. But right. Let's go ahead, Brian.
Okay, what'd you say?
Butter, fat, lard, maybe some hot sauce, and jelly on it. And then it's called Americanized.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Well, jelly on everything, and bacon on everything on top of that too. But anyway, here's a Cuban bread right here, and the thing about Cuban bread, it's very similar, as you can tell, to a French baguette. But never put food in your mouth while you're trying to talk. There are a couple differences with with Cuban bread. One, as you mentioned a second ago, it has lard in it, and lard's important because not only does it sort of bind things together, it also holds the gas in. So when you're baking it, it sort of expands and it sort of holds that in as the bread's rising. But also the lard in there, which is a lubricant, allows it to create a nice little crust on top of the bread as well. So the lard is one important element to Cuban bread. And you'll still see that anywhere it's made. As a matter of fact, there's a very cool bakery in Tampa called La Segunda. And the original Cuban bread and the traditional Cuban bread is like 3 feet long, okay? My oven isn't really big enough for that, so mine's only, it's a tiny little version. Two other things about a Cuban bread, though. They also use a fermented starter when they're making the dough. I mean, it's a yeast-based dough, but when you're making Cuban bread, the day before you make a yeast starter, it's just basically yeast, flour, and water. You mix that together, put it in the refrigerator overnight, and it starts sort of doing its thing. It gets fermented, it starts getting a little bubbly. Then the next day, you make a formal bread once again with another bit of yeast, and that combination just creates a nice sort of better rise to the bread and gives it a much more just sort of soft in the middle, crunchy on the outside when you're baking it. Now, the last thing is, you'll notice the little groove that's in this piece of bread right here. They do that traditionally when they're making Cuban bread by using a palmetto frond, which is basically a palm frond, those large, just the fans you see on a palm. I don't have that in my house, but what I did instead was I braided 3 pieces of kitchen string into a nice little braid. And when I bake this, when I actually lay the log out, you just lay this across the top like that when you put it in the oven, and it basically creates this little groove when it bakes, and you pull it off when you're done. The other thing about making bread like this, and it's the same with French bread, is you want to get the oven really hot, and then you want steam in there the minute you put the bread inside, because the steam will actually create a crust on the bread a lot more efficiently. So as soon as you put it in the oven, I have a pan underneath, and I pour boiling water into the pan, which creates steam. And then during the cooking process, I also spray a little bit of that on it as well. Oh, backing up. Before I put the bread in the oven, I spray a little water on the bread as well before I put it in there. Then I add steam too. So there's a nice little crunchy, crispy version of the bread. And that's Cuban bread. So a lot of people will tell you it's definitely not a Cuban sandwich without Cuban bread. So that's the important part.
So it's truly just gravity using on that braided strand that's on top. That's just
and it's moisture.
Creating that.
And it's moisture.
And
when you're putting it, you soak this guy in water, and the palmetto frond has its own moisture in it, but it's sort of moist, and so that moisture sort of goes against the heat that's being generated everywhere else. And so it makes that natural divot in the bread. Makes it awesome. So yeah.
Huh. That is incredible.
The things you learn, science in the kitchen.
It is. It's science. To me, like to make a good sandwich, like it 100% starts with the base, and that's the bread, like, or I should say the vessel, right? So, right. Up until doing some research for this episode, I didn't realize, like, truly you have to have the right bread here for this sandwich. Like, if you're putting it on a hoagie, you're going the wrong way, So Absolutely. If you see that at a restaurant, you're not getting truly the Cuban experience. So
right, and that's the question though. You don't know if you're if you're up here in the Midwest, I doubt you're going to get true Cuban bread. But if you're down in Florida, I'm pretty sure you're going to get Cuban bread. Almost every one of the restaurants, I'm sure they order specific breads for that. So absolutely. Oh, and you know what? Excuse me. Before we get into the sandwich in more detail, we didn't talk about the difference. Yes. About the Cubana. And the Cubana, I want to mention that Cubano is the sandwich we're talking about tonight. A torta cubana is a sandwich that was sort of originated in Mexico City, and they have 100% nothing to do with each other. So if you ever hear those names, it's somewhat confusing. But there was a restaurant, a cantina, on a street in Mexico City. The street was Calle República de Cuba in Mexico City. And there was a cantina there, and the chef just basically put just about everything he had in the kitchen onto the sandwich. And it was so popular that the sandwich started being named after the street that it was on. So it was on Cuba, so Cubana became the name of the sandwich. And the difference between the Cubana sandwich and a Cuban sandwich is that there is no 100% sort of, this is a core to making a Cubana. It's like literally if you go to one part of Mexico to another, it'll be completely different. And there's this really great restaurant / liquor store in San Francisco called That's It Market. And I went there with my friend Sarah a million years ago, and they have this torta cubana, and it has milanesa. So basically a fried either beef or chicken. It's got hot dogs. It's got chorizo. It's got eggs. It has bacon. It has lettuce, tomato. I mean, what's that?
It has hot dogs on it?
Hot dogs are a huge part of a torta cubana. I don't know why, but yeah, it is. It's hot dogs, and there's they're cut in half and then put side. They're laid flat like you do if you put a hot dog inside of a sandwich bun. And so there's a video on my YouTube channel if you can search for it, but it was ridiculous, but it was really, really good. But again, it's a completely different sandwich than the Cuban.
Sounds like now a lot of flavor.
Tons of flavor. But it's like you're eating the kitchen sink. And again, because it's not the same from one restaurant to another. You can walk down the street in San Francisco and you eat a completely different sandwich. But the thing of it is that I didn't do a 100% pure Cuban sandwich tonight either. I have a little variation on it. And part of it came from my Texas roots, because I did a little bit of smoked meats as opposed to a slow roasted pork. And then I included a little sort of my Tex-Mex background as well. So I've got some jalapenos and a little bit of bacon in mine, but we'll get into that in more detail a little bit later. But that's I did my variation again. To your point, you got to change everything just a tad, but you don't want to take it away from its core, its basic core, which is what I tried not to do.
That's fantastic. This is like such amazing information. Going back to kind of what you said about Key West or even just getting the correct kind of a Cuban sandwich. Right. The best one I've ever had was down in Key West at a place called El Masan de Pepe. And I've talked about it on a previous episode of our cast. And it's like all outdoor restaurant, which is perfect for Key West, of course. And they've got all these chickens running around and everything. It's perfect. But the sandwich itself blew me out of the water.
Okay, nice. What's that?
I asked Andy if he caught the chicken.
I didn't catch it, but there is a picture of it like a baby just standing right on top of my foot while I'm eating. Foot? Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, if
Hey,
you're ever
I
down in
wouldn't-
Key West, check it out for sure.
I've never been to Key West, and I haven't been to Florida in probably 10 years. But you know what's funny? I reached out to my friend Tim Long, who lives down in Miami. I asked him, I said, "Hey Tim, tell me what's a great Cuban sandwich down there?" And he gave me two places. He said Versailles, and now Versailles is a very sort of old school place in Miami proper. And he goes, it's a little old school, but the Cuban sandwich is really, really good. And then the other place he gave me was Havana, 1957. He goes, there's four of them in the Miami area. And while I was chatting with him last night, he actually ordered one and had it delivered. And he sent me photographs of it, which was awesome. And I think one of the things they do is, you know, you were talking about lard earlier. A lot of people do use a panini press when they're making it. Some people will actually brush lard on the top of the bread before they sort of press it down. I'm not going to do that tonight because I'm just, you know, I'm sort of on a little bit of a cleanse myself. I'm feeling very fat after the COVID-19, 20 pounds. I'm trying not to add too much. And I'm going to eat the whole sandwich when we're done tonight. So I don't want to add that, but I'll tell you about that variation.
Yeah, I've been fighting the COVID-19
Insane.
or COVID-20 even
Right.
on and off throughout the whole thing. So yeah, I feel you there.
Yeah. Crazy. Crazy.
So I guess why don't we get into a little bit of the sandwich build here? Tell us a little bit about the ingredients that you have here,
Okay.
and then kind of along the way we'll butt in and
Yeah.
maybe ask you some questions about techniques and
Sure.
stuff like that.
Sure, and before we get started, I'll talk about equipment as well before we jump into this. One of the things
Yes.
you would be great to have if you're going to make a Cuban is to have a panini press. Now I have this panini press, which is great. It came with two different set of plates. Now one set of plates are the ridged plates, so I can put ridges on there if you want. But Cuban sandwiches I've been looking at don't really have the ridges on it, so I have a very flat version that's in there as opposed to the ridge. If you want to put the ridges on there, you can certainly do that. Then you're also going to need just basically a spatula for that. And then all of your ingredients are spread.
Like, could I just like, you know, grab it, it's hot, and then be like, regret it, and then do it again?
Yeah, no, you could. Yeah, that wouldn't be smart, but yeah, you could do that. No, the other thing you can do though, if you don't have a panini press, you're hilarious. If you don't have a panini press, you can actually make sure this is one. You've got a cast iron pan. Then you go ahead and going to use one skillet, and then just boom, drop the cast iron pan on top of the sandwich.
Oh,
you really press
yes.
it down as well. And you can heat up the cast iron pan in the oven and just drop that on top. So
Ryan showing off his.
Love this.
Oh, you've got
amazing.
You've got a good cast iron pan. You're
do.
good to go. There you go. I love it. All right, so
Awesome.
So I'm going to talk about making the sandwich here. Again, we've got the Cuban bread here. Each one of these loaves are about 14 inches long. So each loaf is actually two sandwiches. And I cut them in half here already. And so I've got one, split it in half, basic, all right? What I'm going to first do, I've got my panini press heating up, and I'm going to put just a nice, generous amount of butter on here because I want to toast the bread first, because that just sort of keeps all the ingredients sort of nice and sort of uniquely tight while you're actually eating the sandwich. So that's going to go in here. It's going to sizzle here for a moment. There we go. And that'll take a couple of minutes to cook. Now, while it's cooking, I will talk about some of my other ingredients. As I mentioned before, a very traditional Cuban sandwich is going to be ham, and then it's going to be roasted pork of some kind. And the roasted pork, a Cuban roasted pork, usually is going to have a mojo sauce on it. And a mojo sauce is going to be probably garlic, cumin, oregano, and probably some kind of citrus like lime juice and orange juice. And what you'll do is you'll make sort of a paste out of all of that. You'll marinate either a shoulder or a pork butt or something like that overnight. And then in the morning, you'll put that in the oven for like 3.5, 4 hours. You're gonna let it go a really long time. And it's almost like a pull apart with a fork when you're done. I chose not to do that simply because I wanted to use, not only I'm here by myself for the most part, and I didn't want to do an entire roast that would be sitting around for days afterwards, but also I wanted to, as I said before, bring in a little of my Texas background, my Texas flair. So what I use tonight, instead of using a roast, is I have a pork tenderloin. And what I did with the pork tenderloin is I actually used my dry rub mix. I've got a series of dry rub mixes I've made. They're on the internet. You can get the recipe and make your own. They're great for gifts. But I have one for pork, for chicken, for fish, and for beef. And so I took the pork one, take the pork tenderloin, completely cover it, really liberally cover it with this overnight, let it sit, and then it goes into my smoker with hickory or any type of wood, smoke you want to use. But hickory goes for about an hour at 300 degrees. Doesn't take a lot because it's a small piece of meat. And then what I have after that is I'm letting that rest, and I'll open that up in just a few seconds. Now on top of that, for my sandwich, let me just check that real quick.
Can I ask you a question about the meat really quick?
Sure.
So say somebody is using their oven for, maybe they're making the bread at that time or something. I don't know. Could they use maybe say like a Instapot or something like that to get the same effect?
Absolutely. If you want, especially if you're doing like if you want to make a mojo sauce or something like that, you can use an Instapot or even a crock pot, a slow cooker. A slow cooker would be better. Well, Instapots right now are both slow cookers and pressure cookers. So absolutely. There's a wonderful flavor. You can do all kinds of pulled pork using a slow cooker, and that sauce, that mojo sauce, it comes from the juices of the meat as well. So yeah, you can absolutely do that. Absolutely. The nice thing about this dry rub mix that I have is that it really gets into the meat, and I put so much on there that flavor sort of creates a nice little flavor that goes along with mine as well. So it turns out pretty well. Let's see how we're doing here. Not getting a good toast on that yet. Turn that thing up a little bit, all the way high. And then what else can I tell you about? Yeah, and the other thing I'm going to show you in just a quick second is, rather than just pickles on my sandwich, what I did is, again, pulling a little bit of my Tex-Mex, is I use jalapenos and bacon. So rather than just simple slices of pickles on the sandwich, I take jalapeno, chop that up a little bit, chop up the pickles, and I also take bacon and chop the bacon up, and I just lay that across almost like a relish before I put the cheese on top of that. And that ends up being just a really nice combination that works really well.
All right, quick question.
Yeah.
What is the pickle of choice? Are we talking dill, hearty garlic, baby dill, sweet pickle, jalapeno pickle, spicy pickle, zesty pickle? I don't know. What kind of pickle are we talking here?
Pickles are like a box of chocolates. You just never know which one you're. No, it's just dill pickles. Basically, dill pickles are all I do.
Okay, Ryan, you are brushed up on your pickle.
Yeah. Oh, your pickle
culture.
We have
That's funny. No, I use just basically dill pickles, and I think that's very traditional as the dill pickles. So I think you're good there. So anyway, let's see what I can do that. I can do that while that's still toasting a little bit. I'm going to take a jalapeno here. I've seeded the jalapeno. I'm going to take it, and I'll just do a little chop here, real simple. And I'm not going to use the whole thing. That's a lot of jalapeno, although I probably would normally eat that much. And then on top of that, to your point, I've got a dill pickle. I'm going to take the dill pickle. Can you guys see it? Yeah, you can see it okay. So I'll take the dill pickle. I'll slice that as well.
Now, is there a particular way to cut jalapenos so you don't like tear up? And I always end up getting juice in my eye. Always.
Actually, here's a hilarious thing. Let me show you something. I got to step out of frame for a minute. These are the best. These are onion gobblers.
Oh.
They are designed specifically for chopping onions and for jalapenos, and they have an entire foam thing all the way around the edge. So you put these on, you never tear up while you're cutting onions or anything. Now, also, you should probably wear gloves.
That's what I
want.
Yeah. Sorry.
You should wear gloves when you're, there we go, nice and toasty. All right, so the bread's toasted. See the bread there? Nice and toasty.
Beautiful.
Now, one thing about the bread is you can also do, if you want to, where did I put that? Here. You can actually, much like you do with the bruschetta, you can rub a little bit of garlic on there as well if you like. There are definitely some places that'll have a garlic butter that they'll use. But let me finish what I'm doing here. I've got jalapeno, I've got pickles that I've chopped up, and I've got 2 pieces of bacon that I've cooked to sort of a very chewy level, because I want that to easily be able to be sort of chewed and digested while you're eating it. So I'm going to chop that up as well. Go quickly. Boom, boom, boom. So now I've got this kind of little relish here. It's pickles, it's jalapeno, and it's my bacon. So that's right there. That's ready to go. And what I've got here with my bread now, I'm going to take my bread. I've got Black Forest ham. I'm going to lay down here a very generous amount. And you can use any type of ham you like, but I like Black Forest ham because it's got spices in it and it's cured as opposed to like boiled ham that you might get somewhere else. So you can put that in there, layer it nice and thick. You guys see that okay? Yep, yep. Nice amount. Be generous with it. And then the next thing is I'm going to get my pork tenderloin. Let me set this aside. My pork tenderloin is still wrapped in aluminum because I was letting it sort of get ready for its debut. I'm gonna pull this over here. Now, I'm not sure here. I'll give you a close-up of that. That is my pork tenderloin.
Ooh.
So that's been in my smoker. And I'm gonna take that out of the pack there. And I'm gonna slice that up. Pardon my fingers, it's just me eating. You know, slice that at a pretty generous angle as well. But you see the crust on that and the flavors on that? I mean, that's really juicy. And it's really gonna make a nice sandwich. And of course, it's not, again, 100% authentic to a Cuban because it's not pork shoulder. But again, I want you to see that really well, that it's nice and tender and really just beautiful slices of pork there. So I'm gonna take that, let me close this up here. Take that, I'm gonna layer that on top of my ham. Again, very generous.
Goodness.
Oh, look at that. Oh my God.
See? No smell-o-vision, but
I know.
now see the other thing, like I said before.
I'm
One
salivating so much right now.
I'm starting
one
to,
pork
but
tenderloin.
I'm about to go make a
Nice.
fridge.
Okay, so now I've got that. I've got my ham, I've got my tenderloin, and then what you're gonna do is you wanna put all of this relish on top. You're gonna cover it with the Swiss cheese to hold it in place. So I'm just gonna take this.
So you use the cheese like glue.
It's a glue that holds not only the bread onto the sandwich, but also keeps all this little relish in here
That's a glue.
nicely contained. What's that?
Said, see, boys and girls, that's a glue you can eat.
yes.
I ate it regardless in school, I believe, for the most part. All right, so there we go. All that's on there. And then you're gonna put 2 decent slices of Swiss cheese go on top. Okay?
The glue.
That is very, very traditional.
Wow.
Where's my
That's
little
like
thing here?
the biggest Swiss cheese slices I've seen in a while. They're beautiful.
And then there's the top. All right, so here we go. You got a good shot of that? You
Oh
got all the
my.
elements in there. There is my Cubano. Now I'm going to take this, and this is another key thing you've got to do. When you put it on the grill here,
Let me take
you
a
want
note.
to. What's that?
I said, let me take some notes. Key thing.
Yeah. Well, you got to tilt the top here so that it gets it right in spot there in the right spot. Oop. And then it even didn't do it the right
That's
way.
the
I'll turn it
trick,
this way.
yeah.
You got to make sure it goes because it's a big sandwich and you want it flattened correctly. There we go. And you're going to press it down.
Wow.
Introduce it to the panini press, and just give that a couple minutes. So ask me some questions because we got a couple minutes before that's going to be completely ready.
So you said you did hickory pellets for the smoke.
Yep. And it's not
Um,
pellets. My smoker is actually real pieces of wood. So it's real
okay.
pieces of hickory. Yeah, but it's hickory.
So I guess tell us a little bit. So hickory will give you certain flavors versus cherry versus, right?
Oh, damn.
Yeah. And it's subtle, but definitely different flavors. All right, I just screwed up, guys, just so you know. Forgot to put the mustard on. So just remember that. Mustard goes on there. I forgot the mustard. I will actually, I'm going to cheat. I'm going to cheat and put some mustard on
there's
there.
still time. Yeah, you got it.
Ow. Hot.
Oh, jeez.
Mustard.
Flip it with your hands.
Shades of my NBC days. I forgot the mustard. All right. Here we go. Put that back in there.
How'd that?
Rotate that around. Get that tilted again.
Now it'll be evenly pressed because you turned it.
I had to turn it around. There you go. That's actually a good thing. Depending on how it goes down, you may have to turn it. I've got to switch earbuds because my other one I think is dying. A second here.
Fine.
Any other questions? How are we doing on time here? Oh, we're good.
Oh yeah, we're good on time.
Let me
So
clean up a little bit.
the mustard, was the mustard a homemade mustard?
Yes, I think the French's company homemade it for me.
Ah, very nice, very nice. If say someone did want to make their own homemade mustard, is that something difficult to do?
You know, it's not difficult, but it's a lot of work, and I don't know that because you can buy so many great mustards like a Stone Ground or a Dijon that it's better to take the time making your own roast pork if that's what you really want to do to really make a great sandwich, as opposed to worrying about making your own mustard. And I mean, you can make it. You grind everything up and you mustard seed and all that sort of stuff. Personally, I wouldn't go through all the hassle. I would just go ahead and buy a great set of mustard, because you can buy a ton of different mustards and experiment with them as well and see what you like. I had a friend of mine. Go ahead.
Mustard in my fridge.
How many?
Like 7 or 8 different kinds of mustard in my fridge.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
I think that's great. And I think that's easier to do than actually. There we go. Doing well.
So we've got a question about. So we've got the sandwich here. What about the side? What would be a good side to go with this sandwich?
Peach.
Well, I was thinking maybe potato chips.
Any particular kind, or just your straight up potato?
These are sour cream and onion.
What brand?
Perfect.
Lay's, Ruffles. Like,
I think they're Lay's. No, my friend Tim in San Francisco, in Miami, the ones that he got from Havana came with French fries. I think you want, it's a sandwich. I mean, we're back to the idea of a sandwich. So I think you just want something simple to go on the side. And I think potato chips are great. Let's see how we're doing here. Ooh, just about done. Okay, let me clear this off a little bit.
all right. So talk about sides real quick. Okay, what fries do you prefer? Do you prefer crinkle, curly fries, fresh cut potato fries, or
You know what?
What's your?
I have decided recently that I like crinkle cut fries because they stay crisper longer. And that's the real reason, because I don't normally want to get anything right now with fries. I like a third to a half of the fries and then I'm done. So I love the sort of the crinkle cut crispy. Oh, look at that. Ooh, awesome. Ooh, looking good.
All
right. I think that's good enough. You have another?
Man.
No. Do you have another question? Ask me another question. I got a second.
Oh, what's your views on ketchup?
I like ketchup.
What a political question.
Yeah, ketchup's good. As long as it's not on a Chicago hot dog, it's fine. It's all good.
Take that.
There you go. All right. So here we go,
the
guys.
cross section.
There is the Cuban. I'm about to slice it for you if it doesn't slide off onto the floor there. And you definitely have to slice it at an angle. Chris Bromkus, I hope you're watching. Ow, 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 ow. Hot. Okay. So there, my friends.
Oh my goodness.
Is that Cuban sandwich. Nicely done. And then I'm going to put it on my plate here.
Now, if you had a drink with this, what would be your?
I would do sangria, or I would do margarita, or I would do a really great, really fun beer with maybe some lime in it.
Mango jalapeno margarita.
Well, I don't know about that. Mango and jalapeno? That's an interesting combination. Yeah.
Oh.
Okay. There is my Cuban sandwich.
Beautiful.
Looks pretty good.
Take a bite.
And I will take a bite and burn my mouth out. Thank you very much.
Yeah, be careful.
Oh, yeah, that's how Daddy likes it. Take a bite.
Right.
Wow, is that good? That's excellent.
That looks delicious. Man, I am jealous.
And you
much closer to you. See there we go. That's the sandwich. All the elements.
The toasting
really
is
good.
Perfectly done.
Yeah.
So what was that? It was probably like maybe, I'd say maybe like 5 minutes toasting, something like that.
And that's going to depend on your panini press too. So.
Yeah.
No.
Perfection. Yes. Everyone's like freaking out in the chat. There's a little bit of a delay, so it's like just getting to everybody like, oh man.
Okay. It's really good. And again, the thing about, remember I mentioned the idea about why I do a pork tenderloin versus a full roast. This is how much is left of my tenderloin, only half. So this, I can make two if you're going to have maybe 4 people over, you get 2 tenderloins. But one tenderloin actually just makes 2 sandwiches, or maybe 1 sandwich for me today and then 1 sandwich tomorrow. So it's really basic.
That's perfect.
That leftover tenderloin wouldn't make it through the night. That's a total, like, I'm going to wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning and shamelessly eat it cold out of the fridge.
I totally agree. I did it last night with the other one I was cooking. So you're right. It's a late night munchie. Well, hold on, I got to do something silly since we're all sort of random here. I'm going to turn around.
Instagram. That's going on Instagram.
Let's see if I can get all of us in here together. Hold on. Sandwich. There we go. You see, there's out of my kitchen too, which is a mess. Anyway, total mess. Anyway.
That's awesome. So, this is this the first time you've made this version of the Cuban sandwich?
When you asked me, sorry. When you asked me to be a part of this, I did a little bit of research, and I didn't want to. I knew right off the bat I wasn't going to do a huge pork roast, and so. And you and I had originally talked about the fact that Cinco de Mayo was around the corner, and maybe there was a little angle I could go toward, Mexican angle, but that really sort of fell by the wayside because I really wanted to make it more traditional Cuban sandwich than anything. So in my mind, I imagined this version of the sandwich simply because I like the idea of pickles. I love pickles, honestly, but I also like jalapenos. And I thought, since I'm not doing the mojo sauce and I'm not doing that very traditional version of the pork, perhaps the pickles and the bacon would add a little bit of an extra flavor that I could sort of call my own. So I varied it a little bit. This is actually only the second time I've made it. The first one was a picture I posted on Facebook a couple of days ago, but this is number two. But I mean, certain things. Certain sandwich is going to taste a certain way, so it's not challenging at all. So don't ask me another question while I take another bite for you.
So Ryan, when are you getting a Cuban next?
When are we going to Wayne's house?
You're welcome. I don't know if you have a lot of experience with places here in the Chicago area, but there is a restaurant called Cuba 312, which is over in Roscoe Village, that has a really great looking Cuban sandwich. I haven't had it yet, but it's on my list of places to go and try, which isn't that far from where I live. Yeah.
That sounds really good.
It's like,
What'd you say, Ryan?
So it's kind of like Tinder. It looks great, but you haven't met up yet.
Only you would make that connection.
There you go.
Crazy. Well, one thing that seeing that we have you on here, we have to bring up, and I wish I had the picture still on here, the crazy Thanksgiving sandwich that you made. That was like mind blowing to me. I was like,
that was ridiculous.
It was like the detail and like all the fillings. It was so well done. I mean, I don't know how it could have lost.
Well, the fun thing about that is there was a store here in Chicago, or a restaurant rather, that used to make a sandwich of all things. That was basically that. They would take all your leftovers. There'd be dressing, there'd be turkey, there'd be what do you call that stuff? The gravy, giblet, all that stuff, and they'd make a great with cranberry sauce. They'd have the cranberry sauce there too, and the sandwich was awesome. I was like, that is really good. But so I thought it'd be fun to just enrobe all that into some sort of baked thing, and it sort of sprang out of just sort of figuring out a way to put all that together in a way that people could sort of eat, bring it in the morning or bake it, and then people just come out and just sort of slice off a piece and take it. So it worked out well, but it sort of came from a restaurant that I'd been to before. So thanks.
That's just kind of like Ryan, I don't know if you live by that too, but like an artist's motto: steal like an artist,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So seeing that you've had all this experience with food, how big of a critic are you of your own food at this point?
Oh, I have food in my mouth. I am.
Looks like he's shameless.
I'm totally shameless. It's so good.
That's good. If you know it's good, don't hide it.
Even without mustard on the lower part of it. Anyway, so I am very critical of my food, especially when I have people over for dinner, because we all have expectations of what we like. And the funny thing is, someone asked me once before, just dovetailing off of that for a moment. Someone asked me once before and said, why don't you try to be a food critic here in Chicago? Mm-hmm. And the truth of the matter is I couldn't, because I don't like certain things. There are certain I don't like lamb, I don't like venison, I don't like foie gras, and so I really wouldn't be a great food critic. I just don't. Oh, it's duck liver. It's like. So it's not those things. Just I couldn't, and I couldn't be a great critic if I couldn't sort of appreciate some of that. People love lamb, people love foie gras, and I'm like, But when I'm cooking for people, when I think I've done a great job, I feel really good about it. I don't try to beat my chest about it. But when I've done something that I didn't think was great, I'm the first one to say it. Like I had a couple of friends over last week, and I made just a seared tuna steak. I mean, just literally you sear it on both sides, not very long, but it was really dry. And I don't know what I did wrong. Either it was the steak was maybe a little bit older than I thought it was, or maybe I should have put a little marinade on there. But I was the first one to say, folks, we need to add either some soy or something to this because it's really dry.
Yeah,
I'm not.
You could have just like chopped it up and like broke it all up, and then add some mayonnaise and made like a tuna sandwich.
There you go. And, well, as long as it was with a tortilla and called it a sandwich, just
a wrap.
Wait, you forgot about the spicy Cheetos and stuff,
yeah,
the giardiniera.
Right, Caramel goes up on top.
Oh no, there was I don't know if you saw the video, Wayne. There's a video where they made the flaming hot tuna cheese whiz tuna melt. It was
yes, you said it.
I can't remember.
What was it? Oh gosh, that sounds interesting.
That's a nice way of saying it. It looked pretty bad, but Ryan did it.
Cool. You ate the whole thing?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
There's
the restaurant is still here. I forget the what's the name of it? I can't think of the name of the anyway, it's downtown, right off Rush Street, and it was a chicken wing place, and they had the buchalokia pepper wings, which are literally like blow your head off wings. And I remember I did a TV segment on NBC once with Lester Holt, the news anchor for the network news anchor, and he came on to the set, and I said, Lester, why don't you do this with us? And he goes, yeah, okay, sure. He took 2 bites out of that wing, and he was like one of those cartoons where smoke came out of both of his ears, and he was just like, he was sweating profusely. And the restaurant gives you like ice cream and things like that, because water, when your mouth gets, when you put a hot pepper in your mouth, the oils from that basically coat your entire mouth. So you need something that's going to take away that coating. So flaming hot Cheetos, buchalokia peppers, yeah, they're a little much, to be honest with you.
I like them.
I agree. Oh yeah,
that's funny. Very, very funny.
That comment just shot back up there.
Wayne, we have a cook-off. We each may have to make a sandwich.
Yeah,
yeah,
that'd be great. That'd be great.
That sounds like fun.
I would love it.
Sounds like fun.
That would be really entertaining.
That's fun. Very fun. This was great, guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah, this was so much fun. Thank you so much for coming on here and
sure,
and showing us how to make, like, I think, like, one of the greatest Cuban sandwiches. I mean, I haven't tried it, but I want to.
It's really good. I will say I actually think it's really good myself. And again, I don't compliment my food unless I do think it's good. So
there you go. There you have it. Well, if anybody wants to check out Wayne and really, you have recipes like this on YouTube as well.
I do.
Check out Wayne's YouTube, and I've got his handle here at the bottom. Yeah. Thanks so much again for being on with us, and hope to have you on again.
I would love it. Absolutely, very fun. And have you guys over to my place too. We'll have the brisket sandwich I told you about at some point in the future.
Oh, Ryan rose his hand before me, but yeah, I'll beat Ryan there.
You're both invited. Absolutely. Maybe we'll do a live cast from the backyard with all 3 of us here in the same spot. That'd be challenging, but we'd figure it out.
Sounds fantastic. Yeah, better weather for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Well, great. Thanks again, Wayne, and thanks everybody for joining us tonight for another episode. Like I said, if you want to check out Wayne, check him out on YouTube, Instagram with @WayneBites. And if you want to keep up on more live casts and things that are going on with us here, you can check us out at whatsasandwich.com, obviously our Instagram and our Facebook page. But another great episode. And thanks again, everybody. Take care.
My pleasure. Be good, guys. Bye.